Hi, beautiful souls. I'm Elizabeth, and welcome to Untangling the Heart. This time is for you. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, whatever brings you a sense of comfort. Sit back, relax, and settle in. Good. As you listen today, just notice what comes up for you, what resonates for you, what you feel aligned with, because there may be something here that's just for you, or you might have somebody in mind as we talk together today. Just take what feels good for you and leave the rest. It's so good to have you here. So today we're talking about something that we may not be aware of or pay attention to, the emotional weight that we carry in our bodies, how to recognize that, and what to do about it. So let's begin. So the body remembers what our mind tries to move past. We've all got stories that we've lived through, experiences that we've lived through, and we've got two different types of intelligences living within our body, right? We have our consciousness and we have our subconscious. And honestly, our subconscious knows most of everything that has happened. Often we remember those stories, but sometimes we don't. And when they're too much to handle, we've had an experience like grief or sadness, something that's created sadness, or maybe a breakup or losing a job, all of the things that we've all experienced through life, or many of us have. Our mind tries to move past it. Perhaps you were bullied on the playground. Perhaps it's something that happened when you were very, very little. And we really don't want to remember these things. And in a way, it's okay. We don't have to. But just because we've experienced those things doesn't mean that we're still not carrying them with us. We may not remember, but those emotions that our body created when we experience that, we're carrying that with us. We've heard of emotional baggage, right? I explain to my clients, it's like getting up every morning and, oh, you've got a job to do. You're going to walk up that hill. You've got plans and a strategy and things that you're going to do for the day. And yet you don't know why you're feeling tired or exhausted, or sometimes it's even resistant. It's like we're carrying a bag of rocks with us. And that's exactly what it is. So what happens is when we've experienced something that feels too overwhelming, or something that we haven't been able to process or wrap our heads around, or we've suppressed, the body holds on to it, and it can get trapped anywhere in the body. It can get trapped in the head and cause headaches. It can get trapped in the lower back or knee pain, or behind what's called a heart wall. And it can bring us that emotional discomfort. And again, sometimes we're not even aware. So, sometimes we can say, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm doing great. I'm okay." And yet there's this slight awareness that maybe you feel tight or heavy, or just this discomfort, or maybe you're just dragging around. Maybe your energy is just dragging for the day. It could also show up in ways where it's hard for us to make decisions that are really for our highest and best. And sometimes that has to do with relationships. So it can affect our decision making as well. So the body becomes a storage place for things that we haven't felt safe about. So, for example, if you felt rejection, you had a situation where maybe you broke up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or someone, right? And you felt that rejection, and it was, of course, we go through that sadness and the grief and all of that, but you may never have quite gotten over it. You may think you have, right? But the body might store that feeling of rejection, and you could carry that within you for years and years and years. That's because that feeling of safety, of rejection didn't feel safe, right? A lot of it has to do with feeling safe in this world. And to be honest with you, we're all still just trying to figure it out. So, what happens when the emotional weight shows up as a physical feeling? Well, what happens is sometimes we recognize it, right? It can become something that we call dis-ease. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not not doing any diagnosis or anything like that. So, I'm just talking about our body is not in ease. It doesn't feel good. And our bodies are very intelligent. They have a way of getting our attention, don't they? You know what I'm talking about, right? So let's take just a moment and let's play together here for a minute. Let's feel into, do you feel an emotion of feeling stress? Like stress and anxiety, that's everybody's top emotion. And we might even go through stressful things on a day to day basis. You can watch a movie and get stressed out, right? Or a television show. But you can also have an interaction or a phone call, or maybe you felt pressure at work and you're under a deadline, right? So let's take a moment. Just take a moment and ask yourself, do I feel a little bit stressed or uncomfortable or anxious? Just check in for a moment. If the answer is no, then great. But if the answer is, yeah, I feel a little off, I can't quite put my finger on it, or I definitely feel stressed, then my question to you is, where do you feel it in your body? Have you had a headache all day? Do you have neck pain? Does your shoulder hurt? Have your hands been feeling stiff? Have you been having an upset stomach? It could be anything, right? Just notice where you feel a little bit discomfort. All that is your body telling you something is out of sorts, something is out of balance. And it's really good to listen to our bodies. And we often push them aside and ignore them. Um, but let's just take a moment to listen. So ask yourself, too, if it's not stress or anxiety, do you feel maybe sadness? Or do you feel some kind of pressure? So, the very first thing to know is that our emotions that we're carrying with us, sometimes, as I said, even when we're from little kids, right, can show up as a physical sensation in the body. So, for example, if you walk around a lot with your chest feeling kind of tight and heavy, or it could be that you've developed a cough or a cold, right? I'm not saying that there aren't physical reasons for that. Always, check with your provider and in whom you trust, right? Whether it's holistic or not, or whoever that is. Check and get that checked out as well. But if you're feeling tight and there's really no physical reason for that, you could be carrying around an emotion like grief. I mean, perhaps you lost a loved pet when you were a kid, and you may still be carrying that around. You're not consciously, but you may be carrying that around. Or perhaps you've had a breakup, or perhaps you unexpectedly, work didn't work out for you. You can also be carrying with you heartache or heartbreak, right? So that heaviness in your chest is a clue that maybe you're holding on to some emotions. Or, for example, your shoulders feel tight and stiff, and you're like, okay, I haven't worked out, or haven't worked in the garden, or I haven't been lifting anything heavy. I haven't done anything out of the ordinary. I didn't sleep weird. Maybe that heaviness in your shoulder or a little bit of discomfort. Sometimes it can feel like a sharp discomfort in your shoulder. That could tell you that you've been carrying around too much responsibility or a lot of burden. carrying a lot of weight. And other literally, you've been carrying too much on your shoulders. And you can actually somatically feel it in your body. You can feel like you're being dragged down. Maybe it's just you've had a lot of family responsibility on top of everything else that you've been doing. It's not that you're not happy to do it, but it's been a lot for you. And it can be exhausting, right? Or stomach tension, right? Perhaps you've had a little bit of a stomach ache, or just you haven't been able to eat right. Things just kind of feel off. You've lost your appetite. Or maybe you're eating so much food and you're really not even paying attention to what you're eating. It's just kind of like you're drowning out your emotions. It can go either way, right? And that can be based on a lot of anxiety. Maybe you're worried about an exam coming up. Your maybe your whole job is, um, you've got to pass this test in order to be able to get the next step in your job. So anxiety or fear or that great concern. So, these sensations are not random. They are the ways that our body communicates with us. So, our body speaks in these sensations and not in verbal words. Well, what your body is really doing is creating a frequency. Yes, I'm going to go there. I love talking about the quantum realm. I love talking about the quantum field, and I love talking about frequency because literally we are energy. We are all energy, and we're electric as well. So when we are experiencing something in our lives, some kind of situation, and our glands or our organs, our stomach, our heart, our lungs, our spleen, it creates that emotion. And it also creates a frequency. And that's what gets stuck when we don't deal with it. When we don't process it, it gets stuck. It can get stuck behind what we call a heart wall or any place in your body. So your body is talking to you because it loves you, but it may not feel that way right now. So don't worry. We're going to chat a little bit more. So, if we suppress things, if we try and ignore them, if we try and look the other way, if we try not to pay attention to them, it doesn't resolve it. We all know this, right? We've all done it and we all know it. What it really does is it compacts and compounds the situation. So, and we're talking total emotion and frequency right now. So if you're feeling anxious, that frequency of anxiety in your body doesn't like it, but it recognizes that frequency. And so we may inadvertently attract people, places, things, situations into our lives that recognize more anxiety, and your body's like, "Oh, I don't like that, but I know it. So I'm going to pull it in and have more anxiety, and I'm going to have more anxiety. Let's just have anxiety stew tonight, right?" Or this, of course, is over time. So you can continue to compound. See, you know how you can invest in your money, and you can create money by compounding, right? Well, you can also create feeling uncomfortable by compounding these emotions. So when we push down and we ignore them, they don't dissolve, but they compress and they compound. So over time, this can create things like chronic tension or fatigue, or we can become like almost emotionally reactive. Like, for example, something falls off the counter and it's a little bit of a crash, and you bolt, you get excited, you're on edge. Guess what that is? That's that fight or flight. You're living in fight or flight mode, and your body is expecting that tension all the time. And so you might be emotionally reactive. It might, for example, it may not be you, but it may be someone else who you absolutely love and are close to, but they may snap at you a lot. Why is that? Well, they may not recognize consciously, but subconsciously, there's something that they may not feel safe, or they may be reacting to something and they'll snap immediately, right? It's that way of our us being able to protect ourselves from something that we can't see or recognize, but we feel it. We just can't bring it up to our consciousness. I hope that makes sense, right? So many people are really not overreacting, but they're carrying this accumulated emotional weight, and it's layer upon layer upon layer, right? And it's all layered with things that we've experienced in the past. So, I work with a lot of people, and a lot of my clients will come with migraine headaches or sleeplessness, or sometimes it's that reluctance to move forward. Like do you ever feel that resistance to do something and you're like, why am I so afraid of this? I know how to do this. I know I'm capable, but that feeling and that resistance. So it can show up in your body in so many ways, in a feeling or even in, like I said, the physical body. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the physical body. So let's look at safety. Safety is the gateway, opening that gate to releasing these emotions. Again, if you're in fight or flight all the time or most of the time or a good part of your waking time, and a lot of people experience this when they're sleeping too because they're anxious when they sleep or they can't sleep well at all. Perhaps you're not feeling safe, or perhaps you didn't feel safe in the past. And safety is that gateway, that opening to be able to release. So when you feel safe and you've released all of these emotions, you're a lot more in control. You're a lot more you. And sometimes we forget who we are. I know I experienced that many years ago where I had a life change, and all of a sudden I remembered who I was. I recognized the things that I like to do, the people that I like to be around, the activities that I like to participate in. I had really forgotten that because I was in a place now where I felt safe. And then I was able to start expressing myself and doing, crafts and singing and speaking up for myself and just speaking in general. So it may be the same with you. So the body will not release what it doesn't feel safe to let go of. Okay, I'll say that again. The body will not release what it doesn't feel safe to let go of. So when we go through a healing process, and a lot of us do this on our own. We read lots of books. I have a free seminar that I do once a month. It's we can't force it. We have, or sometimes we can't overthink it. Right? We can't analyze it. We have to create that safety in our body. And we can start with some simple practices. These are some of the things that I share as well, but I'm going to share some with you today. We can start with some simple practices like remembering how to breathe. I recall going through situations that were really harrowing where, you catch your breath and you almost forget to breathe. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves. And our bodies say, okay, if you hold everything in, you'll be safe. Where really what it's doing is it's creating more anxiety and stress. It's also being aware. That's why we've talked a lot about the somatic, what's showing up in your body today. Being aware of what's showing up. And believe it or not, bringing attention to it. Your body just wants you to pay attention to it. I mean, your body is part of what you are and who you are. Of course, you're an energetic soul, but you've got this beautiful covering, this beautiful body. It wants your attention. It needs to know that you love it as much as it's wanting to love you. And the body wants to heal, right? The body doesn't like to feel in dis-ease. So being aware and then gently noticing. And sometimes it's about just speaking the frequency and the words of, I am safe. Now, your brain may keep telling you, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. Okay. Let it just talk. Right. If you allow yourself to say, I am feeling safer, or maybe that's better for you, or I am learning how to be safe. That may even feel more resonant with you. Because if you don't feel safe and you say, I am safe, it's probably not going to land for you. So you can also tell yourself, I'm doing better. I'm learning. I'm going to be okay. I'm getting the support that I need, right? My body wants to heal, all of these positive things, but also recognize it. And if you've got a heaviness in your chest, say, I feel you. Talk to your body. I feel you. I'm aware that you're telling me a signal. Tell me more. Reveal more to me. I love you as much as you love me. Sounds kind of weird to talk to your body, but that's okay. Why? Because we have this ability to energetically heal ourselves. And like I said, our body wants to heal. So here's another thing. You don't have to relive your past stories to do this healing, to lighten the load. That's a lot of people feel like they have to retell their story over and over and over again. I know I've shared stories with you before, and when I have guests on as well, they like to share a little bit about their story, but we focus mostly on how they got through what they experienced and came out on the other side. So we know that there's hope and healing for everyone, right? But when we keep retelling an old story, well, I was beat up on the playground and nobody liked me, and I was always last to be picked on a sports team. Well, that's true for me. I, I'm going to confess right here. That was not my forte in sports, right? So I was always chosen in the last, right? The cheese stands alone. I think some of you know that song, right? But that's okay. But if we keep retelling that story over and over and over again, well, I had a really rough childhood, and you may have, and you have every right to speak about it, but you don't have to own it anymore. You don't have to keep creating it in the now or in your future. We don't have to relive the past to be able to release these heavy emotions of feeling, for example, rejection or abandonment or feeling insecure, right? Or frustration, any of those types of emotions, any of them. You don't have to keep retelling your story. That re traumatizes us and it makes us think that it's the truth. When you have the ability to create your truth right now, the body needs to respond to your being present to it, but not pressuring it. Again, we cannot force anything. Gently notice, right, the sensations that you have in your body as we started out talking about, but don't judge them. And you don't have to attach a story. Or if you want to, tell the story one last time. Tell it either to someone you trust, or tell it out loud to yourself, or tell it in your mind, or write it down and be done with it. I wouldn't write it down and read it over and over and over and over and over, because what you're doing is creating a neural pathway in your brain, an electrical impulse that is you're creating a superhighway, and you're creating the truth. If you're telling yourself that old story that it created emotional discomfort in you, you're telling it over and over and over again, you're creating that superhighway, and that becomes your default. Oh, kind of sounds like a computer, doesn't it? And you don't want that, perhaps you don't want that as your default anymore. And so you can jump off that highway and literally create a new neural pathway right now. You can say, I am complete. I am closing down that highway. It's done. I don't have to ride or walk or travel down that highway anymore. I'm creating my new reality. And that could just be, I'm getting better each day. I'm learning more to support myself each day. I'm going to learn ways to be emotionally supported. My life doesn't have to look like this. It can look like this. You can be the creator for sure. And your emotional freedom doesn't become less it's not about figuring it out. This is not a head space. This is more of a heart and body space, an emotional space. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to have all the answers. It's about giving yourself first and then giving your body the permission to move it. It's just like, I've worked with a lot of people and we've had to talk about setting boundaries in relationships. And it's not about drawing a line in the sand, but it's about empowering yourself and speaking up for yourself. Well, in this same way, it's about instead of using your mind, it's giving yourself permission. You know what? I'm ready. You know what? I'm going to release this. I'm not going to hold on to this anymore. There are other ways that you can, um, uh, embrace to support this. But remember to just be aware, recognize it, acknowledge it, tell your body you're here for it because it wants to be here for you, and then give yourself permission to release it. Perhaps we'll talk about forgiveness another time. That's a whole other topic. But really, what it is just allowing it to let go and soothing your body and allowing yourself to feel safe. So, if something in this resonated with you today, just know again, you're not alone in this. These feelings and these emotions can be released for sure. You can do it. If one person came to mind today while you were listening, someone that is holding on to this discomfort, and however it is it's showing up in their bodies, please feel free to share this conversation with them. I think that would be amazing, an amazing act of kindness on your part. And we're all rewarded for those kind gestures as well. I send that back to you, that love and that appreciation back to you. You can find Untangling the Heart here on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you enjoy podcasts. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss a conversation. As you know, I have guests on as well, and I'm just as excited and fascinated by their story as I am by yours. Thank you for being here today. So until next time, from my heart to yours.
We've all got stories we don't say out loud, little knots we hide away. You're not broken, you're just learning to be honest with what you feel today. This is untangling the heart, one brave breath, one tiny start, finding strength in every scar and every part. You're not falling apart, you're just